Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show here on Reason and Theology. Got an update here on the situation with the Mission of Divine Mercy within the Archdiocese of San Antonio. I've covered this story to an extent previously, but there are some updates. In fact, the Archdiocese posted a couple days ago an additional canonical warning decree issued to the Mission of Divine Mercy, straight from the desk of the good Archbishop himself, Archbishop Gustavo Garcia-Siller. And I want to read through the canonical warning because there's some important stuff in here, really important stuff, especially towards the end. And then I'm going to show you an additional clip from the Mission of Divine Mercy that Bishop Joseph Strickland just shared on his social media. A clip where the Mission for Divine Mercy is doubling down on the view that Pope Francis is not the Pope. It's kind of an interesting turn of events where Bishop Strickland himself is now sharing sedevacantist material. I want to cover that with y'all. Let's first take a look, however, at the canonical warning itself. I suspect, since this is an additional canonical warning, I suspect what is coming down the pike is a formal declared excommunication of the, at the very least, Father Foster, if not others, among the community. However, that's speculation on my part, but I'm just trying to figure out, okay, what would this canonical warning be for, other than a formal excommunication in light of the fact of what the Archbishop himself says towards the end of the decree. So let's take a look at it. Sharing my screen. Should be able to see it right around now. Okay. So again, this was just posted a couple days ago. Additional canonical warning decree issued to Mission of Divine Mercy. Now, it looks like this dates back to the 24th of last month, but it just showed up, like I said, on the website, to my knowledge, yesterday. Not yesterday, but 2 days ago. Okay. All right. So here it is. It notes, Dear Father Foster, though you have been prohibited from doing so, I am aware that you continue to publicly celebrate the Eucharist at the Mission of Divine Mercy. Considering your recent postings, including homilies on the website of the Mission of Divine Mercy, I'm equally aware of your continued persistence in disobedience to me and your utmost disrespect for our Holy Father, Pope Francis. Father Foster, as an incarnated priest in the Archdiocese of San Antonio, I once again reach out to you, and as your Archbishop and your brother, I ask that you refrain from your disobedience and adhere to the recognized authority of the Church Jesus Christ has entrusted to us. Even as I wait your return to obedience and communion, I direct you to do the following. Now watch this. And withdrawing ecclesiastical approval from the statutes of the Mission of Divine Mercy, and withdrawing approval for the Mission of Divine Mercy to function as a Catholic apostolate in the Archdiocese of San Antonio, in suppressing the private association of the Christian faithful known as the Mission of Divine Mercy, in suppressing the private juridic person of the Mission of the Divine Mercy, and in ordering that those who formed the Mission of Divine Mercy not to collectively use the name Catholic. They can't use the name Catholic, listen to that, or call themselves a Catholic private association. I hereby order you to immediately remove all photographs of the bishops you have placed on your website and to remove all documents of prior support granting permission and or support of the Archdiocese of San Antonio to the Mission of Divine Mercy. This was on the 24th of last month. As of right now, they still have his picture and other previous archbishops on the website. Here's the current archbishop. There's a previous archbishop. I think that's Gomez. They even still have a statement here saying the following are the decrees issued by Archbishop Gustavo Garcia-Siller concerning Father John Mary Foster and the mission of divine mercy. And it says Father John Mary filed canonical recourse contesting all three decrees on March 25th, 2024. You can still see very clearly photos are still up. So it does not appear that they are complying. And look, how long does it actually take to remove photos from a website? 10 minutes, if that. Probably less than that. So I don't know what would be the delay. It says these photographs and documents are located on your website in About Us category entitled The Mission and in More category entitled Archdiocesan Information, which is where I just pulled that photo. If there are other areas on your website where references to the Archdiocese of San Antonio are located, I order that they also be immediately removed. In the decree of suppression issued to you on March 15th, I also order that the allocation of the goods of the former association be determined according to the norm of the Code of Canon Law, Canon 326, paragraph 2, without prejudice to the acquired rights and intentions of the donors. Distribution of the assets is not determined by the Archdiocese of San Antonio. Full responsibility for the lawful distribution of the rests with the officers of mission of divine mercy. The Archdiocese has never attempted nor threatened to seize any property or funds funds the mission of divine mercy has accumulated. I have only ordered, as stated in the decree cited above, that the intention of the donors to mission of divine mercy be respected. Through articles of incorporation, you have assured that civil law protects the assets of mission of divine mercy. With the suppression of the mission of divine mercy as a private association of the Christian faithful and its private juridic status revoked, I urge you to inform your donors that they are contributing to the mission of divine mercy as civilly incorporated entity and not to an approved Catholic organization / apostolate. I wonder if they've done that yet. I wonder. In your newsletter published on April 5th, you state, thank you for considering a donation in support of the mission of divine mercy. The mission has no regular source of income, and we receive no diocesan funding. Every bit of support comes from people like you, people whom God introduces to the mission. We tried to steward your money wisely and make each dollar work hard for him and his people. Father Foster, I direct you to remove the reference, and we receive no diocesan funding from your newsletter in order to ensure that the people of God understand that the mission of divine mercy is a civil entity and has nothing to do with the Archdiocese of San Antonio nor the Catholic Church itself. Right. It would be like, hey guys, I want y'all to support Reason and Theology because, Toys R Us doesn't send me any money. I don't receive any money from Toys R Us. Wait, what? I don't even think Toys R Us is still around. I think they're out of business, but you get the point, right? let's say they're still around. I mean, what do I have to do with Toys R Us? Nothing. Reason and Theology has nothing to do with it. And to even mention it would be to somehow imply that there's some kind of connection there. And so, yeah, that's 100% fair to say remove that because it in some way can be interpreted as, we're not receiving any funds from the diocese, but we're kind of recognized by the diocese. No. Okay. While accepting their donations, receiving gifts of property, and be benefiting from various types of in-kind services, I urge you to remind your generous benefactors that you have declared in your own words that Pope Francis, the supreme authority of the Catholic Church, whom you irreverently refer to as Bergoglio, is acting as an enemy of Christ and his church. God is telling us that the throne of Peter is occupied by a usurper, and we should not submit to him, nor those who are carrying out his unjust designs. Father Foster, you state you are not leaving the church or being schismatic. Right. I have to pause there. Every heretic basically thinks that they're Orthodox. Every schismatic thinks that they're not schismatic. Every single one of them. And so you're not going to find Father Foster or anyone else say, hey, yeah, I'm a schismatic. Hey, yeah, I'm a heretic. Yep. People don't do that. Name one heretic in history or one schismatic in history that recognize they are either a heretic or schismatic. They don't. So I'm glad that the Archbishop is bringing this up. because of course they're still going to present themselves as Catholic. That's the problem. Luther thought he was a Catholic until the day he died. That's part of the problem. They redefine what it is to be Catholic. They redefine what the constitution of the church is. They redefine its ecclesiology to make themselves within the bounds of the church when in fact they're not. But this is why it is incredibly dangerous, because no heretic goes around with a poster and a sign saying, "Hey, I'm a heretic." They don't function that way. This is not the way heresy or schism works. Heresy and schism, it's a delusion where a person thinks that they're orthodox or thinks that they're within communion with Christ and his church when they're not. And so I'm glad that the Archbishop is bringing this up. He says, "Father Foster, you state you are not leaving the church or being schismatic, and yet your words and actions speak otherwise." Amen. "You persist in your disobedience to the recognized authority of the Catholic Church. All the while, you are accepting donations from God's faithful to support you and the members of the mission of divine mercy." Right. Right. And this is something we see over and over and over. I see guys out there who claim to be Catholic, actively pray for the early death of the Pope, and commend those who do just that. Meanwhile, they go to our parishes and receive funds from the faithful, or even sedevacantists who actively promote the view that Pope Francis isn't the Pope and there isn't a Pope, and they go to our churches and eat from our table and receive the Eucharist and leech off our churches. It's interesting that they have to steal our resources while doing what they're doing. "You persist in your disobedience to the recognized authority of the Catholic Church. All the while, you are accepting donations from God's faithful to support you and the members of the mission of divine mercy." I don't know if they have then stated to their donors that, they are no longer in good standing with the Catholic Church. We'll see. "Remind your supporters, Father Foster, of your statement that I am enthusiastically following Bergoglio. I'm sorry. Father Altman's pronunciation of Pope Francis's name is really it's hard to get past it. Once you hear it as Bergoglio, it's hard to say it otherwise. Okay. "Enthusiastically following Bergoglio, whom we do believe is trying to subvert the church. I am being obedient to Christ's vicar on earth and faithful to the promises I made on the day of my ordination and to the oath of fidelity and the profession of faith I made upon my ordination to the priesthood and the episcopacy." Wow. Wow. In reality, there's a lot of clergy that have a problem right there with the oath of fidelity, parts of the profession of faith. Yeah. So I'm glad that he is being faithful to it, because you know what? There are some cardinals and bishops out there who aren't. And I'm glad that Cardinal Fernandez called them out and stated that that's the case here. "The same promises you made on the day of your ordination, Father Foster. How can you do what you are doing and say what you are saying while also saying that you have not left the church?" Because schism is a delusion. That's how. This is how Satan works. He deceives people into thinking that they're doing the right thing. And when they think that they have a divine mandate from God and the Virgin Mary to do what they're doing and to say what they're saying, nothing the bishop can say is going to override that in their mind. Because they're going to think, wait, God is telling me to do one thing and the bishop's telling me another. Well, I got to go with God. Well, the delusion is to think that they're hearing from God. And I want you to, before we finish the decree, think of how delusional you have to be to sit down. Like imagine you are sitting down in front of a computer and you have to start typing out an alleged prophecy that God just gave you. God the Father just gave you. You have to sit down and type it out. "My dear son," or "My dear daughter, I, God the Father, have a word for," and you have to sit there and type that out. You have to look at the words on the screen, see what you're typing, and really believe it. The level of delusion involved in even writing these ridiculously fake prophecies is astounding. You either have to really think that, the thoughts that I'm hearing in my, own head, the thoughts that I'm thinking and the things that I'm, hearing in my own head, I got to write that down because this is really coming from God. Or perhaps they actually are hearing something audibly, but I don't think it's God that they're hearing. Now, I suspect that that's not the case, that they're not actually hearing anything audibly. I suspect that what's happening is the seer thinks that they're hearing from God, but really they're just hearing from their inner thoughts, and they interpret that as God, and they write it down. The level of delusion involved in this is staggering. But okay, let's continue, because this is where it gets really interesting. Father Foster, in fraternal concern for you, the members of Mission of Divine Mercy, and those of the faithful who continue to support you, and in light of your comments cited above regarding our Holy Father, Pope Francis, I understand you, when celebrating Mass, are omitting the name of our Holy Father in the Eucharistic prayer. Watch this. I have reviewed an audio recording of your illicit celebration of the Sunday Mass on April 21st, 2024. So this isn't hearsay. This isn't a rumor. He's listened to the audio in which you omitted the words Francis our Pope. So it's clearly a ceasing of commemoration of the Holy Father. Why? Because they don't believe that Pope Francis is the Pope. So of course he wouldn't commemorate somebody that you don't believe is the Pope. You omitted the words Francis our Pope from the first Eucharistic prayer, modifying, of course it's the first Eucharistic prayer that they're saying, right? Modifying the prayer to, and bring her to the fullness of charity together with Gustavo, our bishop, and. So they're also dropping the commemoration of the local bishop, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to break communion with the Pope, it really doesn't make sense that you would retain communion with the local bishop, since the Pope is the one who obviously recognizes the authority of the local bishop in his diocese. Father Foster, liturgical law as dictated in the rubrics of the Mass according to the Roman Missal do not allow for any alterations or omissions. I remind you of the following highlighted areas. Eucharistic prayer together with your servant Francis our Pope and Gustavo our Bishop. He repeats the same for Eucharistic prayer 2, 3, and 4, which I don't think is necessary because I doubt very seriously that they're saying them. Father Foster, I remind you of the following liturgical law and authoritative teachings of the Catholic Church regarding the celebration of the Most Holy Eucharist. This is from Redemptionis Sacramentum. Very important document, by the way. The reprobated practice by which priests, deacons, or the faithful here and there alter or vary at all or at will with the text of the sacred liturgy that they charge to pronounce must cease. And you know what? There's wisdom in this, because this problem, as I was showing the other day, goes back to the issue with Photius. And you remember the canon from Constantinople, 861, and its madness, basically saying that the laity effectively get to determine when their bishop or patriarch is teaching heresy and depart from communion with him. Well, the Catholic Church, especially since then, has issued canons really going back from Constantinople of 869 to 870, correcting that problem, addressing that problem, and saying that, the laity don't get to do this, local priests don't get to alter the texts or cease to commemorate the hierarchy. They don't get to do that. Why? Because if they did, it would result in absolute madness and chaos. For in doing this, they render the celebration of the sacred liturgy unstable and not infrequently distort the authentic meaning of the liturgy. Yeah, not only that, but they're also pretending to be Catholic in some ways when clearly they're not. The general instruction of the Roman Missal, nevertheless, the priest must remember that he is the servant of the sacred liturgy and that he himself is not permitted on his own initiative to add, to remove, or to change anything in the celebration of the Mass. That goes back to Trent. Trent as well is very, very explicit on that. So is Quo Primum. Sacramentum, Sacrosanctum Concilium. from Vatican II. Therefore, no other person, even if he be a priest, may add, remove, or change anything in the liturgy on his own authority. Redemptionis Sacramentum, paragraph 51. Only the Eucharistic prayers are to be used, which are found in the Roman Missal or are legitimately approved by the Apostolic See, and according to the manner and terms set forth for it or by it. It is not to be tolerated that some priests take upon themselves the right to compose their own Eucharistic prayers, thank goodness, or to change the same texts approved by the church, or to introduce others composed by private individuals. And then, of course, Desiderio Desideravi, paragraph 19. The action of the celebration does not belong to the individual, but to Christ and his church, to the totality of the faithful united to Christ. So he proceeds. Now listen to this. Let us be clear here. Every aspect of the celebration must be carefully tended to. Space, time, gestures, words, objects, vestments, song, music. I really hope that all priests take that part to heart, by the way. And every rubric must be observed. Such attention would be enough to prevent robbing from the assembly what is owed to it, namely the Paschal mystery celebrated according to the ritual that the church sets down. Honestly, if this was done more consistently, we wouldn't have so many of the reactionary positions in the church today. A lot of those reactionary positions are reacting to abuses in the liturgy because people are not doing this. Let us always remember that it is the church, the body of Christ, that is the celebrating subject and not just the priest. Now here it is. Here's the kicker. Father Foster, by your actions, in omitting the prayer for the Holy Father during the celebration of the Mass, you have separated yourself from the Catholic Church. Full stop. This is what I've been saying all along. Those who say that Pope Francis isn't the Pope, they are not Catholic. That is an act of schism. They have been automatically excommunicated. And so the good Archbishop rightly recognizes and cautions Father Foster and tells him, you've separated yourself from the Catholic Church. I wish more bishops said this, because the problem is there are a ton of sedevacantists right now pretending to be Catholic and coming to our churches, presenting themselves as Catholics while openly saying that there is no Pope right now. And it is deceiving so many people. And right now there seems to be, it's as if many of the bishops are missing in action. And I suspect they just don't realize how severe the situation is. They will when a lot of their clergy begin to reiterate these positions. That's when it will really come to their attention. But by then it's a little too late. So I hope that more of them start to address this issue. But he says, you have separated yourself from the Catholic Church. Amen. That's what they need to hear. And are further provoking misunderstanding and scandal among the people of God. Yes. Yes. You want to talk about a crisis in the church? You want to talk about confusion in the church? Let's talk about this crisis. Let's talk about all the confusion generated by people saying that Pope Francis isn't the Pope, meanwhile claiming to be Catholic. That generates a lot of confusion, a lot of scandal, a lot of misunderstanding. I urge you to retract what you published in We Must Obey God. Cease publishing the alleged prophecies until they can be evaluated by proper church authority. I'm sorry, there's no evaluation needed here. I mean, look, I'm not knocking the Archbishop. If I were an Archbishop, I'd be saying the same thing. I'm just saying, like, there's no evaluation needed. I'm sorry, they are just so clearly inauthentic and so clearly not from God that really no evaluation is needed. But I mean, he's got to go through the motions, right? You know, until they can be evaluated by proper church authority. Recant your disobedience to legitimate church authority and discuss with me how to begin repairing the damage caused by your actions. Could it be repaired? Honestly, I just don't think so. I think once a person has really just crossed this line, I just don't know how they could really be trusted again. But hey, I guess it's possible. He says, I'm prepared to meet with you once again. Well, he's showing them a whole lot more patience than I would. But it looks to me like he's, he has to go through the motions, has to give them the proper warnings, canonical warnings. To what end? I suspect to a formal decree declaring their excommunication or his excommunication. I don't know about the rest of the community. I guess we'll find out. But take a look at this. Joseph Strickland. Pray for the faithful Catholics in China around the world. And then he shares mission of divine mercy message. You know what I'm thinking of at this moment? You remember that part when he told everybody that, no, I really wasn't really told while I was removed from ministry. And then meanwhile, elsewhere, he was saying, yeah, I kind of was told, but, nothing official. I wasn't really told officially, but I kind of was told. And one of those reasons he was removed from ministry, according to him, is because he had a lack of fraternity with his brother bishops. That's what I'm thinking of at this moment. Sharing the content of a community that is openly disobedient and defiant to the local bishop, and declaring effectively that Pope Francis isn't the Pope, to share their content. What's going on here? There's definitely a lack of fraternity with brother bishops there. That's number one. Number two, we're seeing this excessive and constant flirtation with sedevacantism on Strickland's part. And I've said to y'all from day one, give it time, he will become a sedevacantist. Give it time. Now, he hasn't currently, to my knowledge, explicitly said, I don't believe Francis isn't the Pope, but he's flirting with it. We've seen him over and over and over rubbing shoulders with these sedevacantists. He's flirting with it. Give it time. He will, unless there's some massive change in his life, some earth-shaking change that makes him reevaluate his current trajectory. Give it time. He will be a sedevacantist. But he shares this message, and I want to play just a little clip of the message to you. Remember that time that Strickland shared that message at the Rome Life Forum, saying that, Francis wasn't the Pope and all that. And he's like, well, I only shared that not because I agree with every bit of it, but, I just took usurper to mean blah, blah, blah. You remember that whole affair? Well, now he's sharing this message. Listen to what the mission of divine mercy says. By the way, under the delusion that this is coming from God the Father. Look at this. Write, my daughter, for my beloved children in China who have remained faithful to me, blah, blah, blah. God the Father. Again, the level of delusion involved in actually going to your computer, because I suspect they're writing this on a computer and not, on a piece of paper, and somebody else copies it to a computer. I suspect they're going to a computer, sitting in front of their keyboard, looking at the monitor, and they write down, write, my daughter, for my beloved children in China, ... space, God the Father. They actually, somebody has to actually sit down and write that. The level of delusion involved to think that you're receiving a message from God the Father like this is just incredible. Incredible. The way to know that you're actually receiving a message from the God, the only authentic way to know, is for either the magisterium to confirm it or miracles. If God has given you the ability to perform miracles, that validates that you have an extraordinary mission. Apart from that, apart from ordinary mission through magisterial approbation or miracles, which would be extraordinary mission, there's no way that you can claim that this is coming from God the Father. So this is incredibly delusional. But watch this. He reads to us this alleged message from God the Father. And listen to what they say. And mind you, again, Strickland is the one who shares this. And look at this silliness in the chat. Isaac Cooper says, the all-powerful magisterial, laugh out loud. Again, you guys aren't Catholic. Because the magisterium is Christ's teaching authority on earth. If you're going to mock that, go join the Protestants. But if you're going to claim to be Catholic, you can't mock the magisterium. That's what separates us from the Protestants. All right, now watch this. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's only about 8 minutes long anyway, but I'm just going to play just this clip. This is what Strickland was sharing. By the way, let me make sure that the audio is enabled so that y'all can hear it. Okay.
Church, I see the betrayal you have suffered, and that soon all my children will suffer. For the betrayer sits on another's throne and will cast all who do not follow him aside.
You hear that? The betrayer sits on another's throne. Yet once again, a reference to Francis not actually being the Pope, but rather a betrayer, a usurper. This is what Strickland is sharing. And this is what the good Archbishop is having to deal with, a community that says these kinds of things. Wow. There you go. I mean, you're welcome to go and listen to the rest of it at your own leisure, but it's absolutely inexcusable to share this kind of content and think that this is within the bounds of Catholicism. Now, again, hopefully we will see them soon take this stuff down from the website, Mission of Divine Mercy website, and begin to comply with the Archbishop. But so far, it does not appear that they've done so. And what do these photos give the appearance of? Well, I'll tell you. If you're just a person who goes and looks up the website and you see photos of these archbishops, what are you going to think? That this is in communion with the Catholic Church. It's deceptive. Outrageously deceptive. This is what Satan does. He deceives. And he has deceived these individuals into thinking that they are still Catholic. And they continue to leave these up inexcusably because, again, it takes about 10 minutes. 10 minutes to take this stuff down. And that was April 24th that they received it. We're on May 4th. You can't tell me that they're still waiting on their website designer to take it down. No. Clearly, this is further disobedience. So I hope that will change. Now, I know there will still be people who support this stuff and think that, you know, these people are doing the right thing and they're fighting the power and fighting evil and make excuses for all of this. But again, I want to re-emphasize the fact that if you are at war with the visible institution of Christ's church, especially found in the hierarchy of Christ's church, might I submit to you, you are no longer Catholic. You need to start rethinking things. You know, if you are at war with the visible authority structure that Christ has established on church, on earth, in his church, how can you claim to be Catholic? And aren't you fundamentally repeating the same mistakes of pretty much every other schismatic group throughout history? Yes, absolutely. So it's time to rethink this stuff. And I'm further amazed by the gullibility of people that anybody would listen to these fake prophecies and think, yeah, this is authentic. You know what I noticed? If you listen to propaganda speeches by Goebbels or Hitler and others, if you listen to their speeches, the propaganda, what you'll hear them do is they will capitalize on people's fears. They'll tell them some things that they want to hear and they're already sympathetic to, and then they will introduce something else that they are to buy in, and they'll especially capitalize on people's fears. That's what's taking place here. They're being told what they want to hear. Oh, China, yes. And the issue with China and Chinese Catholics, they're already telling them what they want to hear. And the fake message says, I understand my children. You're frustrated with the situation in China, blah, blah, blah. They capitalize on things that they already want to hear. And then they introduce this other stuff. Well, you know what? Francis isn't really the Pope. This is something that I notice with propaganda. Capitalize on people's fears. Exploit whatever they already are disposed to embracing. Tell them what they want to hear, tickle their ears, as scripture puts it. And then introduce the air. Introduce something that you want them to embrace, you want them to believe, and present that as the solution. Oh, yeah, you're frustrated with what's going on in the Catholic Church today. You don't like what's going on in China. You don't like this and that. Well, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't accept Francis as the Pope. Maybe you should join our team, our resistance movement. This is the way Satan works. And I'm amazed that anybody who calls themselves a Catholic actually embraces this stuff. Let's certainly pray for people's discernment and that they turn away from this stuff, and for the repentance of this community, and also for Father Foster. It'd be great to see a massive turnaround of 180. It's possible miracles can happen. If they don't, however, I suspect that this community will continue to confuse people and lead them astray, and lead them outside of the Catholic Church under the delusion that they are still Catholics. All right. Well, anyways, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this on your social media. Also, check me out at patreon.com/reason and theology if you appreciate this content and you want to support what I'm doing here. We'll see you later. God bless. Hey friends, I'm now teaching as an adjunct professor at Catholic Polytechnic University, and I am excited to announce that we will be offering the first ever Magisterial Studies Certificate program. It consists of 3 courses: an introduction to the magisterium, councils, dogmas, canons, and decrees, and evaluating magisterial teachings. If you want to further your education and learn more about Catholic teaching authority, this is the program for you. Check out catholicpolytechnic.org and click on the certificate tab at the top to sign up for the course today. Hey friends, do you want others to discover why the Catholic Church is the church that Jesus established? And do you want to help people make sense of all the confusion in the Catholic Church today? Help contribute to this mission by supporting Reason and Theology at patreon.com/Reason and Theology. By doing so, you'll also get access to exclusive content for patrons only. Also, if you want to deepen your faith, there are free ebooks and even courses that you can sign up for by visiting reason.podia.com. Are you a Catholic thinking about converting to Eastern Orthodoxy? Or are you a Protestant discerning whether or not to become Catholic or Eastern Orthodox? If so, I have the book just for you. It's called Answering Orthodoxy, and engages all of the arguments that Eastern Orthodox use against the Catholic Church. I respond to all of them. I show that they are in error, and in fact, they're inconsistent, because the things that Orthodox are objecting to are in fact found in their own tradition. So the fullness of the faith can only be found in the Catholic Church. Check out the book right now at shop.catholic.com for your copy today.